Tonight, we're going to be doing a Dynasty Startup Mock Draft. What better way to celebrate Labor Day than by doing a mock draft, a startup mock? Some of you might be in startups right now, pressing before the season starts. We've got you covered with strategy, sleepers, favorite targets in each round. So here we go. Without further ado, let's get into the draft. So here we go, the mock draft simulator. No Matt Babbage this evening. Matt Babbage is busy, getting married and whatnot. So congrats to him and his fiance, his family, having a great time. So we thought I'd just go solo and do a little mock draft episode, talk through some of my favorite targets, sleepers, stashes. You get all of it tonight. So we are going to be using the mock draft simulator or the Fantasy Pros NFL Draft Wizard. And this is a really cool tool that allows you to do mock drafts in minutes. And tonight we're going to be doing a dynasty draft, all players, snake draft, 12 team. We're going to randomize my position right now. Third overall pick in a 2-quarterback league. I like that. 2 quarterbacks, 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers, a tight end, 2 flexes. So start 10 with 10 bench spots. No defense, no kicker. Obviously, all experts, we're going to be drafting against their expert consensus rankings. We're going to leave everything at normal. So those are the settings. We're going to go PPR, tight end premium. So maybe we bump tight ends just a little bit, slightly. Slightly high on tight ends. So we'll go tight end premium and 2 quarterback, start 10. PPR. I think I said that already. So without further ado, here we go. And I do think it's interesting as the draft starts off Jaden Daniels, Lamar Jackson. So I think we have a pretty easy choice here. When you're doing a 2 quarterback or a super flex draft, which transparency alert, all of my drafts, basically, if I'm doing a startup, it's going to be either some version of 2 quarterback or super flex. I know there are some 1 quarterback junkies out there. I did a mock draft, a 1 quarterback dynasty startup mock draft on this channel. And for the podcast audience, that was 1 quarterback. And some of you thought my picks were terrible. I thought it was actually a pretty good team. So we'll see how the super flex goes. But I think this is more and more becoming the more popular format is super flex. And Jaden Daniels and Lamar Jackson go at the 101, the 102. And I think it's pretty easy for us. I think we rush to the podium and we take Josh Allen. If you get one of these top 4 picks, I think it's such a huge edge in these 2 quarterback leagues. Because if you're at the back end, and we'll read off the list of players that came off the board here: Joe Burrow, Jalen Hurts, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert, Bijan, CeeDee Lamb, Malik Neighbors comes off at the 112, and Brock Bowers at the 201. See, that's probably the strategy I would employ if you're at the 112. I don't want to go crazy and reach for a quarterback. There are quarterbacks I like. I like Drake May. I would consider him there. That feels a little bit early. And sure enough, Bo Nix, CJ Stroud, Drake May come off in the middle of the 2nd round. So you don't want to be completely shut out at quarterback in a 2 quarterback league, but you also want to give yourself an edge. So you're kind of stuck at the 112. And I don't love that spot in a Superflex Dynasty startup. At the 202, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jahmyr Gibbs, Bo Nix, CJ Stroud, Drake May, Brian Thomas, Caleb Williams, and Jordan Love all come off the board. So we have a pretty nice option here. And this is also why I like having a top 5 pick in a Superflex Dynasty startup, is because the options that come back to you in round 2 are very nice. We got Genty, Puka Nacua, Nico Collins, Drake London. I think the clear hands down pick that I want to make is Genty. I would also consider Puka here or Nico. We'll see if one of those options falls back down to us. I kind of doubt it will, but we'll see. I also like some of the wide receivers down here too, and I think I have an ultimate backup plan if everything just goes against me. So I think we're going to take Genty, and then Kyler Murray, Puka Nacua, Nico Collins, Saquon Barkley all come off the board. Again, I think it's a relatively easy pick. I mean, Drake London is sitting there for us. I think that's the move. We also have Lad McConkey, Brock Purdy, Baker Mayfield, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Amari Hampton, Devon Chain, all on the board at the top of the queue. Teteroa McMillan would have been another consideration, but I think, we start quarterback, running back. I think Drake London is a really good selection here, and we don't have to really deviate and reach for a quarterback. Now, some more quarterbacks do come off the board. So after we take Drake London at the 303, Devon Chan, Lad McConkey, Brock Purdy, Amari Hampton, Jonathan Taylor, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Trey McBride, A.J. Brown, Teteroa McMillan, Marvin Harrison Jr., Kyron Williams, J.J. McCarthy, Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall, Trevor Lawrence. That would be pretty early for Trevor Etienne. Baker Mayfield, Sam Laporta, and Bucky Irving all come off the board. So we are also going to be looking at potentially a wide receiver. I actually think this is pretty easy. Travis Hunter is on the board. We also do have to be wary that we don't get shut out entirely out of our second quarterback and potentially our third quarterback. So I think Travis Hunter is the play. There is a player next to us that already has two quarterbacks. So we're going to go Travis Hunter, bet on the upside there. So one quarterback does come off the board. So Christian McCaffrey comes off the board at the 411, Dak Prescott at the 412, Chase Brown at the 501, and Rashee Rice at the 502. Man, wide receiver is tempting here, but and all these wide receivers are at the top of the queue, and none of them are coming back to us. But I don't want to be shut out of my second quarterback here. Maybe it feels like reaching, but there are two teams at the back end of the draft that do not have a quarterback yet. So I feel as though we should take a relatively safe option. Cam Ward would be a shot for upside. Jared Goff is a solid, steady second quarterback in a Superflex league. It might be boring, but I think that's the pick here. So I don't want to be shut out of quarterback. And just like we thought, two more quarterbacks do come off the board at the back end of the draft. And we still have some pretty good options here. So after we take Goff, T. Higgins, Trevion Henderson, Josh Jacobs, Emeka Egbuka, Devonta Smith, Kenneth Walker, Ricky Pearsall, Justin Fields, James Cook, Cam Ward, DJ Moore, George Pickens, Xavier Worthy, Roma Dunze, Jordan Addison, Jalen Waddle, Zay Flowers, and DK Metcalf all come off the board. And it just, I was doing a draft with the South Harmon guys. Shout out to them. We did a absolutely asinine thing in the sense that we did a Dynasty Startup draft at the Expo late at night with 30 seconds per pick, which was insane. And it just kind of depends on the draft room you're in. This draft room, it looks like they prioritize quarterback early, and now they're letting some of the mid-tier quarterbacks fall. So in hindsight, just looking at what happened here, potentially that Jared Goff pick, it doesn't look like a good one in hindsight because it looks like we could have waited, and which kind of surprises me because there are multiple teams that could use a third quarterback. And I think I'm tempted to take a third quarterback here. Although the two teams next to me do have two quarterbacks, because if we look at the list of quarterbacks here, it's really Michael Penix Jr., Bryce Young, Jackson Dart would be a nice dart throw. No pun intended. But there are only a couple of quarterbacks that I would feel comfortable starting. And I definitely want to have three quarterbacks in a dynasty startup where you have to start two quarterbacks, or in a super flex league. We do have Jameson Williams, Michael Penix, Tyler Warren, RJ Harvey, all good options at the top of the queue right now, or at the top of the ADP rather. Colston Loveland, same story. So getting a tight end here wouldn't be necessarily a bad idea, but I think my preferred strategy is just to get those quarterbacks locked down. And I think Michael Penix or Bryce Young, either one, I'm fine with. So maybe we can wait. I'm talking myself out of what I was originally saying. So Jameson Williams, I don't know how you guys feel about it, but I'm just not a huge JMO fan. It feels kind of risky at this point, although there aren't a ton of other wide receivers that I like. We do have two wide receivers on the roster, as of right now, and Drake London, Travis Hunter. I kind of want to have some fun with Matthew Golden. I feel like that's a pretty good pick right now. But then again, RJ Harvey is also sitting there for us as well, which I know he's received some negative pub recently. And we'll see exactly how that goes, how that situation goes. But it's a high pick for a Sean Payton team that loves to target their running back. So let's go with RJ Harvey and see what happens at quarterback. So it looks like we're going to get our choice of quarterback here. Unless we want to go Caleb Williams and just go completely rookie slappy. Colston Loveland's also there. Ton of good options here. But if we pass, my fear is, though, if we pass on quarterback, we're not going to get somebody that we like as our quarterback 3. And really, there's a couple options. I also like Jackson Dart, but just a little bit later. I doubt Jackson Dart comes back to us. And, he's the future starter of the Giants, I would assume. But I do think that there's more value in a Michael Penix right now. So I'm going to go with Michael Penix. And as predicted, Jackson Dart does come off the board. So we take Michael Penix at the 703. Terry McLaurin comes off the board at the 704, followed by Tyler Warren, TJ Hawkinson, Caleb Johnson, Chris Olave, Devontae Adams, Jackson Dart, Mark Andrews, Bryce Young, Colston Loveland, Matthew Golden, Tucker Kraft, Josh Downs, Chuba Hubbard, Zach Charbonnet, David Montgomery, Travis Kelce, Brandon Ayuk. So at the 8-10, we have a decision to make because, if you look at this build, we have Josh Allen, Jared Goff, Michael Penix at quarterback, Ashton Jeanty, RJ Harvey at running back, Drake London, Travis Hunter at wide receiver. I think we could relatively convince ourselves that we're competitive right now. And we're looking at basically deviating from one strategy to another, because at this stage in a dynasty startup, we have our veterans. We have Mike Evans, Tyreek Hill, Alvin Kamara, Cortland Sutton. We also have some rookie options that we could take if we want to go down that road. Quinshon Judkins, how far does he fall in this exercise? He's already fallen quite a bit in the 8th round here. Jaden Higgins, Luther Burden. I'm not really seeing an in-between road that we could take here. So we do have to make up our mind. And I'm not opposed to, maybe splitting the difference here, depending on what happens. But I do think that Cortland Sutton is one of my favorite redraft targets this year. I think he's going to have a phenomenal season. And then potentially on the way back, maybe we can go with a rookie that has some upside, maybe a Jaden Higgins or a Luther Burden. Maybe if Mike Evans is there, Calvin Ridley. I think we have a lot of youth on this team, so we can kind of build around that youth. So I'm going to go with Sutton, and we'll see what happens. So Pacheco, Dalton Kincaid, Evan Ingram, and Tyreek Hill all come off the board. We could use a tight end as well, and Njoku is there. I'm not necessarily sold on going tight end early. I do like employing the late tight end strategy not necessarily in like a super tight end premium league. Like I play in some 2 points per reception tight end premium leagues rather. But in tight end premium, I'm just fine waiting. So we have Quinshon Judkins, who's still available, Jaden Higgins, David Njoku, Mike Evans. Luther Burden would be a decent pick, although it's not really a win now pick. The more I'm thinking about this team, the more I'm thinking I kind of want to lean into the win now build. And there's one player on here that fills a need for us and also helps us win now. And that would be David Njoku. Let's just see. Yeah, he's kind of the last of a tier for me. So I'm going to take David Njoku here. And right after we take David Njoku at the 903, Quinshon Judkins, Alvin Kamara, Mike Evans, Luther Burden, Travis Etienne, Dallas Goedert, Calvin Ridley, Sam Darnold, Jaden Higgins, Tyrone Tracy, DeAndre Swift, Tony Pollard, Aaron Jones, Braylon Allen, Keon Coleman, Trey Benson, Chris Godwin, and Joe Mixon all come off the board. And it kind of looks like our decision to go quarterback, to get our 3 quarterbacks nailed down wasn't a good idea based on this draft room because Tua is still available, Geno Smith's still available, Matthew Stafford still available. And I think if we're gonna go win now, I think that there's a clear option on the board, and it pains me to kind of take this guy, but I do think that either Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt or James Conner would be a good pick at this point in the draft. And I have a feeling we only have 3 wide receivers. Khalil Shakir, Jacoby Myers wouldn't be bad. Juwan Jennings, Stephon Diggs, also older, could help us win right away. In a PPR league, I kind of would lean with a wide receiver, but I do think that in the 10th round, James Conner is going to help us win right now and gives us some depth at our running back position. So we're going to go James Conner. So Jacoby Myers, Cam Scadabo, Dylan Sampson, Jordan Mason, all those players come off the board. Dylan Sampson, in hindsight, I probably should have scrolled down a little bit further. I probably would have considered Dylan Sampson there. I do think at this point in a dynasty startup, I would definitely be okay taking Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt. If you look at some of the more sharp redraft leagues out there, he's going sometimes in the 7th, 8th round, I think 9th at the very latest. We could also bank some value with a quarterback. I know some of the options aren't great, with Tua, Geno Smith, Matthew Stafford. But I do think that I want to go Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt here, either him or Bashul Tutin. But I think Krosky Merritt would just be, since he has the potential to start on a really good offense, I think we go with JCM and take the upside shot there. So our team through 11 rounds is Josh Allen, Ashton Jeanty, Drake London, Travis Hunter, Jared Goff, RJ Harvey, Michael Penix, Cortland Sutton, David Njoku, James Conner, and Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt. After we take Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt, Jaden Reed, Bashul Tutin, Rashad White, Trey Harris, Michael Pittman, Jaden Blue, Khalil Shakir, Javonte Williams, Jalen Warren, Ramondre Stevenson, Nick Chubb, Tua, Tank Bigsby, Deebo Samuel, Marvin Mims, Brian Robinson, Najee Harris, and Juwan Jennings all come off the board. And now is the time I think we should probably look at wide receiver. There are some young options that we like in Jalen Knoll. And typically at this stage in the draft, I would be looking to go young. Jalen Coker is also extremely exciting to me, but I think I would have a player like, Stephon Diggs would help us win right now. I think he could have a really big year in New England with Drake May. So, but the problem with Stephon Diggs is there's not much value for the future, but it does help us win now. I think maybe we split the difference. Christian Kirk is also there. I think we go with our young guy in Jalen Knoll. So I'm going to take Jalen Knoll. And then Stephon Diggs, Jerome Ford, Cooper Kupp, Rashad Bateman all come off the board. So we do miss out on Diggs, but there is another player that I like at wide receiver. So Mooney would be a nice pick. But I think the upside shot is with Jalen Coker, and I do not think he's going to come back to us. I mean, this is kind of crazy to me that, we would be considering Darnell or Jalen Coker over Darnell Mooney. But I think that's kind of where we are at. Christian Kirk could also provide us some win now help. Harold Fannin, maybe he makes it back to us at tight end. So I guess we would have the Cleveland tight ends on lockdown. I also don't hate Kyle Pitts here. Just throwing that out there. Mason Taylor also at tight end. I cannot quit Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts is just in my heart forever and will probably perpetually disappoint me on the teams where I still have him. So it's between Coker and Mooney. And as Frodo or as Gandalf once said in The Lord of the Rings, what does your heart tell you to do? And my heart tells me to take Jalen Coker. So that's what I'm going to do. Jalen Coker in round 13 of a Dynasty Superflex Startup Draft, followed by Darnell Mooney with the very next pick, Kyle Williams, Anthony Richardson, Kyle Pitts, Rashid Shaheed, Tajay Spears, Christian Kirk, Tyler Shuck, Geno Smith, Ollie Gordon, J.K. Dobbins, Ray Davis, Jake Ferguson, Joshua Palmer, Blake Corum, Isaiah Likely, Isaac Garendo, Cedric Tillman, all coming off the board. So now we have some interesting tight ends. Mason Taylor, Elijah Arroyo, Terrence Ferguson, Brenton Strange, all with some big time upside. Hunter Henry, though, I think could catch double-digit touchdown passes here and gives us some depth at tight end. We also have Matthew Stafford and Daniel Jones on the board, but I do think that I want to get a little bit more depth at tight end, especially in a tight end premium, and we're going to go with Hunter Henry. After I take Hunter Henry, Demario Douglas, Austin Eckler, Wan'Dale Robinson, Adonai Mitchell all come off the board. So I feel good with 2 tight ends in this format. Maybe we take another one later on, whichever one of these rookies drop potentially. I think at this stage of the draft, I like going with some upside either at running back or wide receiver. Some of the targets that I would be looking at, Isaac Tesla is interesting. Pat Bryant is interesting. DJ Giddens, all these guys would be targets. Players I do not want to take are players like, Romeo Doubs, Xavier Legette, some of these Quentin Johnston, kind of players that we know who they are or most likely what they are, and players that just don't have much upside for us in Dynasty. We want to take assets that are potentially going to ascend. And I know it's a shot in the dark to take a DJ Giddens or a Pat Bryant or even a Jalen Royals or a Torrey Horton, who Torrey Horton could start for the Seattle Seahawks right away. They cut MVS, so Torrey Horton would potentially have a job. Now he might be running wind sprints, but he still might have a job there. I do think the player with the most upside would probably be one of DJ Giddens, Pat Bryant, or what was the other option? Were those the two? I feel like there was another option that my brain is just completely forgetting now. So I do think that I'm gonna lean with the running back. So I'm gonna go with DJ Giddens. At this stage of the draft, I do like taking backup running backs over third string wide receivers. So for that reason, DJ Giddens was the pick. Jack Bech, Xavier Legette, Tyler Algier, Mason Taylor, Romeo Doubs, Woody Marks, Alec Ayumanner, Jonnu Smith, Jalen Wright, Pat Bryant, Kendre Miller, Matthew Stafford, Jalen McMillan, Alec Pierce, Will Shipley, Keenan Allen, Rico Dowdle, and Marquise Hollywood Brown all come off the board after we take DJ Giddens. I think that there are some more upside shots here, and I think this draft board is presenting us with some wide receivers. I do think now would be an interesting time to take an Isaac Tesla or a Torrey Horton or Jalen Royals, considering they could have roles right away on their respective teams. And it's funny, I don't know what it is about Detroit and their selections in the NFL draft, but they have a type. They have their targets, and they're not afraid to take them where they unafraid of the backlash, and they've done pretty well, building a successful team. So I'm going to lean into it. Give me the Tesla. And then let's see if Torrey Horton, these are players too, that if we get into halfway through the season, maybe the back end of the season, and they're not even remotely close to starting, these are also players that I don't mind dropping and picking up somebody else. So these are roster spots, where I don't necessarily feel the need to hold on to them if there's seemingly no hope for them. I also think at this stage in the draft, Daniel Jones is still available. I think that that's a pretty good pick right now. Jalen Milroe would also be another solid option to take, but we know Daniel Jones is going to get spot starts in the NFL, and some of these other options here just don't strike me as good ones. Russell Wilson is also still there. But you know what? I think there's a tight end on the board. So Chigakonkwo, just going to get our third tight end and call that good at that position. So after we take Chig, Pat Freiermuth, Quentin Johnson, Jalen Milroe, Daniel Jones, Kate Otten, Joe Flacco, Jarquez Hunter, Jonathan Brooks, Russell Wilson, Trevor Etienne, Donta Thornton, Marshawn Lloyd, Taj Brooks, Roshan Johnson, Kyle Monangai, Brashard Smith, Shedeur Sanders coming off the board in the 18th round, and Jaleel McLaughlin. So we still have Torrey Horton, Jalen Royals, Troy Franklin, all on the board. Now you could say those are wide receivers that, could be just roster cloggers down the road, but they do have some upside right now. That is the good thing for us. Spencer Rattler, starting quarterback, still on the board as well. Let's go with I knew I said it was done at tight end, but Terrence Ferguson and Harold Fannin, Jatavian Sanders. Some of these options I think are really solid. How many wide receivers? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 wide receivers. Is there a veteran wide receiver who could help us? Maybe DeAndre Hopkins. Not really. So maybe we go with Torrey Horton. We've talked about it for a long time. That feels like a fun pick. Keaton Mitchell, Michael Wilson, Miles Sanders, Jordan James. Let's take a look at the running backs. Nothing really speaks to me, although Chris Rodriguez could have some goal line work for the Washington Commanders. We do have Ja'Cory Grosky-Merritt already on the roster. So there's that. I think we can pass on that. Let's go with some upside here. And let's go ahead and get scrolling down here. I know this makes for great podcasting, great radio as I scroll down. Let's go with Dameon Pierce. He could be something for Houston, or he could be nothing. We really aren't sure. And then with our 20th round pick, again, trying to shoot for some upside, although you could argue Dameon Pierce is not a great upside pick. Let's just do it. Let's get Harold Fannin and get the Cleveland tight end situation on lockdown. So we get an A- from the Fantasy Pros draft wizard grading system. Once again, the team is Josh Allen, Jared Goff, Ashton Jeanty, RJ Harvey, Drake London, Travis Hunter, Cortland Sutton, David Njoku, James Conner, Ja'Cory Grosky-Merritt. Let's view, those are the starters. We'll review the full team here in a minute. It thinks I'm going to finish third this year, which I think is really good. And we got some youth as well. Derek Brown really liked our team. Pat Fitzmaurice really liked our team. Joe Rico from No Expert Fantasy Football really liked our team. We don't get a ton of negative grades. Joe Pisapia, C+, Andy Behrens, B-, Mauricio, my guy, Mauricio, B. So steals and reaches. Torrey Horton and Harold Fannin, it said, were steals. I think those are good late round picks if you're looking for upside. It wants us to redo some picks. We're not going to do that. It wants us to take Trevion Henderson over Jared Goff. And see, at that stage in the draft, we thought that the quarterbacks were going to go. So again, you can nitpick everything to death. And yes, in hindsight, would that have been a better pick? Probably. But you know what? We got what we got, and I feel pretty good about it. So let's recap the team one more time. We got, from the third pick in a 2-quarterback start 10 PPR tight end premium startup draft, roster 20 players, Josh Allen, Ashton Jeanty, Drake London, Travis Hunter, Jared Goff, RJ Harvey, Michael Penix Jr., Cortland Sutton, David Njoku, James Conner, Ja'Cory Grosky-Merritt, Jalen Knoll, Jalen Coker, Hunter Henry, DJ Giddens, Isaac Tesla, Chigakonkwo, Torrey Horton, Dameon Pierce, Harold Fannin Jr. So you can kind of see We went youngish to start. All of these players like Josh, minus the quarterbacks, because age in quarterbacks isn't as important as age in running backs and wide receivers, obviously. So I feel good about our quarterbacks. I feel good about the youth that we have. And then we built around that youth with some veterans in Cortland Sutton, David Njoku, James Conner. We picked up Ja'Cory Crosby-Merritt in round 11. I'm not sure that's going to happen if you're doing a dynasty startup right now. I feel like he's probably more of a round 8, 9, 10 pick. Getting him in round 11 feels really good. And then we got some more rookies with some upside. And this is exactly what I want to do in the later rounds. I want to target players that I think can increase their value and help my team at the same time. And I think Jalen Knoll and Jalen Coker are two perfect 12 and 13 round picks. Hunter Henry, tight end depth. I think he has a chance to catch double-digit touchdowns this year with Drake May in that offense. I'm more bullish on the New England Patriots offense than most people. DJ Giddens, again, the backup running back or the third string running back. I think he's the backup in Indianapolis behind Jonathan Taylor. I think there's a ton of upside there. Isaac Tesla having a really good camp. Chig Okonkwo is a guy I really like. And then we rounded out with some more upside shots in Torrey Horton, Damian Pierce, and Harold Fannin Jr. Let me know what you think in the comments. Let me know what you think. Leave a 5-star review on the podcast. Click the like button and subscribe on YouTube. Thank you so much for watching. Be good, everybody, and we will see you later.